Thank you, Joyce. Thank you, Felisa. I appreciate the opportunity to be here today. I always love to work with Education Associates. I am a product of Gary Bates's influence when it comes to project-based learning. He is who hooked me on Project Discovery years ago, way before 2020. And I met him at a CASE conference, and it when he explained what he had, what the product he was there talking about, and I was just like, oh my gosh, where has this been all of my career? So I love to see that Gary Bates, he was such a kind heart, and I love to see that he's still being honored and that his memory, I know that this company will always honor him and the hard work he put into making students' lives better. I love Joyce, Felisa, what you said about this year's winner, because you called her a beacon of hope. And I wrote that down when you said it, because I thought I love that, because that's what we all are. All of us teachers, all of you listening, the administrator, the career people listening, we have a social worker, a field director. I'm currently a field director, our transition specialist. You're all beacons of hope for your students. So many of our students come to us all across this nation, not just my little tiny box of the world that I inhabit, but across this whole country. No matter where we are, we have students who come to us, and we are the most positive thing they see in their lives. We are the most encouraging thing they have in their lives. We're their hope, and we're that beacon of hope for them. And it is a high calling on your life, in my opinion. And it comes with a lot of responsibility, and we all know that, right? Teaching is a big responsibility. I am not going to go into this because we do have a lot to cover, but I was in the public education system in Alabama for 27 years before I retired, and this is my third year in Georgia. I live very close to the Georgia line, so I come over to Georgia, and I teach at a private college, and I teach in the elementary education department, where we're training our students to go out and be elementary teachers. And I talk to them all the time about the extreme responsibility they have, because our kids, some of them get exactly what they need at home, but not most of them. And we know that. Look at our prisons. Look at just look at where our children, so many of our students end up. We know that they don't get everything they need at home. And I don't say that critically of parents, because I think so often parents really are doing the very best they can. And I've always said they send us the best kid they have every day, because if they had a better kid at home, they would send that best kid. They are sending us the best they have, and they're trusting us to take care of them and teach them. So in that same vein, how do we teach them? Because they are a different group of people, right? It's a whole different population in our schools now, and we can't teach them the way we were taught. Like that one size fits all comment that Joyce brought up earlier. Well, one of mine is, but we've always done it this way, with a slash through it, because saying we've always done it this way just doesn't work anymore. And we know that it's kind of always been that you have to keep evolving and changing in education. But for someone who started in the 90s, and there may be people on this webinar who started much earlier than me, there may be people who started much later than me. I don't need to know your birthday. I'm fully aware of my age. Thank you. But either way, we know we can't do it the way we've always done it, because we have a different population. We have a population of students who have grown up and are literally being raised by screens. So what do? We have got to focus on student engagement. I was so excited when I was asked to do this, because student engagement is so very important. And I'm a firm believer that project-based learning is the key to student engagement. So let's go ahead and get started. If I can talk about this all day, but can I control this PowerPoint? Okay. Oh, see, went too fast. We're just going to talk real quick about some definitions, the importance, and some research with student engagement and project-based learning. What is student engagement? We're just talking about that level of interest, that motivation, that involvement that those students show when we have activities for them. What I want you to truly realize, if you haven't already, is that engagement is not the same thing as compliance. a teacher may have a classroom full of compliant students, but they are not engaged necessarily. Engagement doesn't always sound like compliance. Compliance is usually kind of quiet in a classroom. Engagement is usually not. We have to kind of get past that. But just remember that compliance and engagement are not the same thing. And ask yourself, what do I see in my classroom? What am I seeing in my coworkers' classrooms? Are we a school that is really, truly encouraging student engagement, or are we more concerned with compliance? Why is student engagement important? Because those students are more likely to experience higher academic achievements. Their retention's improved, and they're just more motivated to learn. And then what's project-based learning? Well, I mean, the name pretty much says it. It's an instructional approach where students, they gain their knowledge and their skills by working on a project over a period of time. It involves solving problems. It involves questioning, them learning how to question things, learning how to have inquiry, ask those questions, have their questions lead to answers that lead to more questions, and it helps them learn how to solve real world problems. And then why do we do project-based learning? Why is it important? Because project-based learning encourages deeper thinking for all cognitive level students. It encourages critical thinking. It encourages collaboration. And for students who have grown up on a screen doing this, they don't always know how to collaborate and communicate with each other, because this is a different kind of communication. And we sometimes have to put opportunities in front of them where they have to really learn how to collaborate and communicate with another person. We all know most people have to communicate and collaborate as adults in their world. I mean, there may be some who live a very isolated, they work in isolation, but that's not the majority. Our students need those skills. This is just a real quick slide about the research, because I teach college-age kids now. Everything they share has to be backed up by research. So I'm backing mine up with research. This is just a couple of quotes I pulled from some articles. That project-based learning significantly enhances student engagement. And I'm so sorry, I've got to move this off and academic outcomes, and classrooms utilizing project-based learning report higher levels of student satisfaction and motivation. This is recent research, as you can see. Project-based learning is a true key of success for student engagement. Okay, hold on, I am trying. Okay, here we go. So these are some student engagement strategies that work. Now, this is not project-based learning. That right now, I just want to talk about some engagement strategies that I have witnessed that research says these are good, strong options that work. And I'm just going to give you a little example, and then we're going to move on. The first one is an active learning technique. And an example of that is like interactive simulations, where we use technology or role-playing scenarios to simulate a real-life situation that, of course, is related to the curriculum and the standards that we need our students to master. Students engage in activities that mimic those real-world challenges, and it enable them to explore those concepts and the activity with the support of you, the teacher. How do I handle this when things go wrong? The next one is technology integration. Now, I know technology, we were just kind of complaining, I was, about the screens and this technology, but technology does have its place. And integrating technology, especially for teachers who are very determined to teach the way they were taught because it worked back then, so why doesn't it should work now? We really need to support those teachers in embracing how they can adequately and appropriately integrate some technology into their classrooms. I mean, there are all kinds of platforms that we can access, like Google Workspace, Microsoft Teams. There's so many. Those are the two I know best. And those help us facilitate communication and collaboration among students. It is a way that we can pull some communication and collaboration in with people who aren't necessarily in the same room. I mean, you can use technology to do a project with a class similar to yours in another school in your district, another school in your state, another state, even another country. There are so many things that we can do with technology if we will put the planning in place to benefit our students. The next one is student choice. I know that there are a lot of educators who don't even think student choice, what is that? They don't get a choice. I'm the boss. You are in charge. You are the adult. You are also the facilitator of their learning, and giving them a choice in what they do and how they do it helps them have some ownership and encourages them to be more engaged in your classroom. Some examples of this might be a choice board where students, like you have a list of, like you're doing a project or an activity and there's a list of jobs and they get to choose which one they do, because you can tell, I'm probably going to be the one who says, hey, I'll do the presentation part, or I'll be the one who tells everybody what we decided. I'll be the recorder because I like to take notes. I'm a note taker. But there are students, my own children would be the one. I have a daughter who would be the one who said, please don't make me be the one who shares it. So give them some choice, because I know from personal experience as a parent, when she was forced to do things that took her very much, not just out of her comfort zone, but into a zone of severe anxiety, there was no learning, because all she could focus on was her anxiety. So developing that ability to give students some ownership and some choice, it will change things in your classroom. Trust me. Next is utilize your student relatable content. And what does that mean? Just utilize your students' interest. Survey your students. Ask them what they like. Ask them what their hobbies are. Ask them what kind of things, go on in their lives, and then figure out how you can pull those elements into your lessons. What's your content area? What are you trying to teach them? How can you connect it to their life so they find some meaning in it? Because when they find meaning in what they're learning, they're going to be engaged. That's just how it happens. It's like magic. I forget I'm supposed to be switching this. Okay, so how do we tie all this together? How do I do all this? Look at all these strategies, and I literally only gave you 4. And I mean, I started out with a huge list. I narrowed it down because I knew I wouldn't have that much time. And what I want you to see is all of those strategies that I just talked to you about, it can feel a little overwhelming. But all of these strategies that promote student engagement that I just shared with you, and all of the other examples that we've kind of talked about, they all have something in common. And what that is they can be successfully implemented through project-based learning. It really is like that magic piece that we're missing. We're not all missing it. We have some teachers who are just amazing with project-based learning. I'm in and out of a lot of schools. It is not the majority that have embraced project-based learning. It is the minority, and we want it to become the majority. So implementing effective strategies for student engagement, like project-based learning, it's not just a pedagogical choice. I mean, this is a commitment as a teacher, to foster in your classroom, in your school, and in your district, just a dynamic, inclusive, enriching environment where students want to come to school. Can we even imagine that? But they can want to come to school. They really can. So it's just project-based learning is where it's at. That's what I'm going to tell you. Okay, so here's what I'm going to break this down for you. How do I get started with project-based learning? I've never done it. I don't even know where to start. First thing I'm going to tell you is don't get overwhelmed. It is okay to start small. In fact, I encourage you to start small. Start incorporating just a single project that aligns with your curriculum. And I'm not talking about go home and make a poster board with their mama or their dad. That's not what we're talking about. We are talking about an interactive project in the classroom where they work with other students, okay? So start with a single project that aligns to your curriculum. Look at what you're teaching. Look at their interests. Choose a topic that interests you and your students. I say we collectively as education professionals, would spend more time investing in what's going to make my students and me want to come back tomorrow, if we would spend more time doing that than listing all the reasons why teaching is hard and students are frustrating, et cetera, I mean, it would make such a huge difference. So what are you interested in, teacher? What are your students interested in? How are you going to tie those together to incorporate a project in your classroom? You might have them research, like let's say maybe you're going to do a little garden activity. And you can do this from any age level, y'all. You can take, let's think about if we're with our youngest and we're talking about some kind of gardening activity. It can be small. It can start with the butter bean in the Ziploc bag with the soil and the contents attached to the window. I know we've all seen them in our elementary classrooms. To our high school where we work with our building science people to actually build a greenhouse and figure out what we can do with that. Now that's big, and I said start small, I did. So if that was your goal long-term, how would you start small now? Just think about how you can integrate a project into what you're already doing. Start small. Okay, and my arrows kind of go around in a clockwise order, and I tried really hard to figure out how they could like turn and pop out. I don't know that much about how to do that, so I didn't do that. So the next thing is I want you to think about adapting your classroom, okay? Remember that every classroom is unique, and you need to tailor your project-based learning approach to fit the needs of your students, their interest, their backgrounds, and their ability levels. Because you can use project-based learning with all ability levels. Flexibility, that's going to be your key right there. You've got to allow your students to have some part in the decision-making process regarding their projects, because what we want is for them to take ownership of their learning. We want it to be important to them. We need them to value their learning. Okay. The next thing you're going to do is collaborate with your colleagues. And I did not realize that that had rotated. So colleagues is not together. I apologize for that. So go talk to your coworkers. Share your ideas. Share your strategies. Who could you collaborate with on a cross-curricular project that might spark some creativity and lead to some innovative solutions that'll benefit everybody? What I think about here is, who can you work with and who could you collaborate with that you might be the key that helps a student learn to enjoy a subject area that they previously really didn't like? Because maybe all of a sudden they see it through a different lens, or they learn an appreciation for it because before they didn't think it had a place in their life. But now that they've gotten to work with it in a different manner, they do. I think about me and math. Now, math is not my thing, y'all. I was not a good math student. And, we're talking the 80s here when I was in school, in elementary, middle, high school. And you know what it was like, paper and pencil all the way, right? A math textbook, blah, blah, blah. And I look back now and I think if someone had shown me how math applied to my everyday life, I think I might would have enjoyed it more. Like, for example, when you were teaching me how to work with percentages, if you had given me a project on shopping, 100%, I would have learned that and valued it a lot more than I did. So think about things like that. How can we pull in another colleague and another discipline area and mesh those together? All right, so we've done all this. We're doing this project. We do, and it's small, and we do a small project. What are we going to do? We're going to reflect, and we're going to adjust. Reflection is one of the most effective practices for a teacher that's out there. When I went through my national board national board certification process, and since then have done trainings for others going through the national board process, I learned the value of reflection. And I had never really learned how to reflect on my teaching practice like I did through that process. But what I learned from that really changed me as a teacher. It changed my teaching practice. So you need to reflect, and then you need to adjust based on that reflection. Assess the effectiveness of the strategies that you used. Talk to your students, get their feedback. What did you like about what we did? What did you not like? What should we change? What do you think went well? What do you think we could do differently in the future that would make this better? Reflection is essential for growth for us and them. So teaching them how to do this means that it may carry over into another part of their lives as well. And then finally, we're going to celebrate successes, because sometimes we only celebrate the best of the best, but we need to celebrate the successes of all of our students. If we've got a student who typically never says anything or never engages, they are just literally taking up space, but this project brings out something different in them, celebrate that with your students. What kind of celebration works best? You know your students, I don't, but you do something to really celebrate and acknowledge how that project-based learning has contributed to their engagement and their learning. You might create an opportunity for them to share their projects to the class or a club in the community, a club in the school, a bigger school community. Find a way for them to highlight their achievements and their creativity. It's important. Maybe a project fair where you take all the projects you've done this year and y'all set them up. Do something to celebrate your students. It really does make a difference. Okay, so I'm going to talk to you now about project-based learning is for everybody. And as a college professor, one of the things that we talk to our students about a lot is the importance of learning how to differentiate, learning how to really push and accelerate those students who are really academically strong, and also how to remediate for those students who are really struggling academically. And project-based learning for both sets of kids, it really is. So first, we're going to talk about how we use it with those students who have those higher cognitive, I'm sorry. Oh, go back. I want to talk to you for just a second about how we use project-based learning with those students who are really our high performers. Because you might think, they don't really need it. They are engaged. Well, they're paying attention. They're compliant, and but are they really engaged in their learning? Or are they just such good students that they're going to do what they need to do? Because that's just who they are as students. Here's where project-based learning can impact them and change learning for them. It gives them challenging and relevant tasks. You can give them complex real-world problems where they have to really think critically and practice problem-solving skills. They often thrive on challenges, and project-based learning, the sky's the limit for what you can do for them. Push them to engage in a higher cognitive level than they already are. It gives them opportunities for autonomy. They really want some autonomy over what they learn, and it does provide those high-performing students with choices in their projects, and it fosters a sense of ownership. And this is really important because they need to have that ownership and that responsibility, because these are a lot of times our students who are college bound. And when they don't leave us, when they're not taught in school, in high school, how to take some ownership and some responsibility for their learning, then they go to a big college. Well, guess what? Their college professors are going to expect them to already be able to do that. And they may have some disconnect. And for the first time ever, they may feel not successful as a student. And that's a struggle for kids. So we need to think about changing some things for these kids to get them ready for that next level. And project-based learning does offer so many opportunities for that. It offers, again, for this group, that collaboration and peer interaction that we talked about. And then it just helps them develop those higher level, higher order thinking skills that they need, those critical thinking skills, helps them develop their creativity, just helps them all the way around. And you can just, it's so dynamic and so engaging, the learning environment, when you use project-based learning. It just caters to the needs and aspirations of our high-performing students in a way that guided notes don't, if we could just think about it like that. But then we're going to talk about the flip side, because it really is for everybody. And I will be honest, this is my passion right here. 27 years in Alabama in special education. It's for everybody. So what about my students with identified disabilities? How can they be a part of project-based learning? Wow, that they really can. They are, sorry, got my notes shifted around. They are so hungry for engagement and opportunities where they can shine. And man, they need it. They really need it. So we've got to create those opportunities. And project-based learning for students with disabilities is a game changer. It really is. And some meaningful ways that it impacts them is it gives them personalized learning experiences. Project-based learning allows for differentiation, projects that are customized based on their individual strengths, their interests, and their needs. Students with disabilities, they get to choose topics that really resonate with them. And that leads to them being motivated and engaged because they will connect with their work, and they don't always connect with the things that we put in front of them. Collaboration is another way. It encourages teamwork and collaboration. And our students with disabilities don't always get the opportunity to work alongside peers. They're often separated, unfortunately, and they miss out on key social interactions. But project-based learning opens up an opportunity for social interactions where it's guided because it's all revolving around this activity that we've created for them, but yet they still have to collaborate and communicate with each other, and it's just so good for them. It makes learning more tangible for them. It makes learning accessible for them. We've got to make learning accessible for our students with disabilities. It's hands-on learning, real-world experiences. It's engaging because they're engaged in practical tasks. It reinforces concepts that they may have learned and need to continue to practice. It gives you flexible assessment methods. Everything does not have to be a pencil and a piece of paper test. Project-based learning assessments can be tailored to accommodate the different learning styles and the different ability levels of our students. And it encourages critical thinking and problem-solving skills. And we know that for many of our students with disabilities, critical thinking and problem-solving skills, they don't always come naturally to our babies. And yes, I still say they're my babies, even when they're grown. It's not something that comes natural. We have to explicitly teach those skills to them, and we have to give them real-world opportunities to practice those things. Some people have the advantage of teaching students with disabilities in an environment where they can take those kids out of the classroom, out of the school. They can put them in the community. They've got all these huge opportunities. But some people don't, one, live where those opportunities are available. Maybe two, have the funding to provide those for their students. They don't have the transportation to do that for their students, or they have whatever other challenges. They may not have enough staff for somebody to do that. But project-based learning is a way to bring it inside the classroom. Now, we mentioned project discovery to you earlier. When I worked on this PowerPoint and pulling my notes together for project-based learning, I did not inform Felisa or Joyce that I was going to talk about project discovery. But I am, because I'm going to tell you about project discovery and how it takes project-based learning to a whole new level. Project-based learning is amazing for everybody. But for just a minute, I do want to really hone in again on those students with more significant needs. And I want to talk to you about project discovery and what it has in place for those and everyone else, okay? So project discovery is a nationally validated and approved program. It's created with you, the teacher, in mind and your students. It was designed to support project-based learning in your classroom. It's all there for you guys. It is hands down in my 30 years of education, I've never experienced a program or curriculum as impactful as Project Discovery. Everything's there for you. So when you have the opportunity to implement Project Discovery in your school, you get training and you get everything you need. So maybe you can't take your kids out. Let's say, like, for example, this picture on my slide is like of the grocery clerking kit. Maybe you don't have that opportunity. Maybe you don't have transportation. Maybe you don't have the funds to take kids away from school. But you know that one of the job opportunities out there for them might be that they'll be able to go to a grocery store one day and be a grocery clerk. But you don't have the opportunity to help them practice that in a real world situation. Project-based learning through Project Discovery brings that real world into your classroom. You can have everything you need, and I do mean everything. And yes, I know I'm saying that, and you're thinking, oh, we've heard that before. Oh, I have too. In 30 years, you don't think I've heard a curriculum promise that? This is the only one I've ever seen actually deliver it. Everything you need. And it's real stuff. It's not a picture of a carton of eggs. It's a carton of eggs. It's the real thing that they're then going to see when you transition specialist, finally get them where they can go out and go into the grocery stores or whatever that work environment is. Because we are so not limited to, a lot of times we tend to limit project-based learning for students with disabilities to coffee shops, restaurants, grocery stores, fast food. It is not limited to that. You just go back when you get these slides and you look at all of the list of opportunities for Project Discovery. I mean, I've heard stories of students doing the small engine repair kit and falling in love with learning how to repair small engines, then taking on a student business of repairing small engines, and the people who work at the school bringing them their lawnmowers and their weed eaters. And all of a sudden, they've got a reasonable place they can pay to have their small engines repaired. And these kids are running a business and making money. And it all started with a Project Discovery kit. It's unbelievable what opportunities are there. Okay, so when I was making this kit, when I was making my slideshow, I thought I want to go into the website and I want to share a testimony from like a teacher who's used it. So I'm flipping through them, trying to decide which one I'm going to use. And when I come to this one and I read it, I thought, that sounds like something I said. And then I look and sure enough, that's my name down there. And I want you to know that this is a quote that I gave probably Gary Bates before I was a special ed administrator, before I really knew what I know now about Project Discovery and Education Associates. This quote in that one classroom, in that one box, a whole world opened up to these kids. Guys, that's true. That's me saying that as a teacher, just like you, when I was in the position you're in. I don't know what I'm going to do, and I need something to really work with my kids and help my kids. And this is what I said about it. I'm just telling you, there's nothing better. This is the bibliography from the data that I showed. And I just want to wrap it up with this. If you will take the initiative to integrate these strategies into your teaching practice, especially project-based learning, you will not only enhance student engagement in your classroom and in your school, but you will empower your students to take an active role in their learning. Project-based learning, did I say that right? Yes, I'm sorry. Project-based learning encourages real-world problem solving. It encourages collaboration. It encourages critical thinking. And all of these skills are essential for our students to be independent. Will all of our students be completely independent? They won't. That's not how they were made, and that's okay. But what we do want for them is for them to be the most independent that they can. From our top students, who we want to go to college and be the most independent and successful, to all of those in between that are going to career tech schools and doing all of those great things, and those who are entering that workforce because they just really want to be a worker and that vocation is what they want, to our kids who really are going to struggle to even know what to do with themselves when school's not an option for them anymore because it is their place that they love. All of them will benefit from project-based learning, and all of them will benefit from Project Discovery, because Project Discovery is built in so many layers that you can differentiate it down to our students who really, really need the most support with the accommodated packets that you can, the accommodated kits that you can purchase, all the way to the highest who they really are doing a great job, but they just really don't even know what they want to do. They've got it all for you. So I'm just telling you, it's a place to take your interest and explore it and see what you can find that you would benefit from. Thank you for your time. I love to be a part of anything Education Associates does. And I love to do Webinar Wednesday. I have put my personal email down there and my personal cell phone. My passion now that I'm out of the classroom and I'm retired, my passion now is supporting teachers, because I still love education and I still love teachers, and I always will. I don't go to work every day. I go to school, even still. So if you need support, you need help, you need guidance, you just need to chat about what could I do, call me, text me, or email me. I promise I will answer you. Thank you so much, Felisa and Joyce, for giving me this chance.
Oh, you're welcome.
And I'd love to answer questions if anyone has any.
Yeah, we sure would. I have a couple that came to me during the middle of this, so I'll kind of dive in, and Felisa, if you have any others as well. But I thought it was really interesting because you were talking about, like the higher functioning students in general ed in a project-based learning environment. And then I know that, like in my classes, I had several students who were in an inclusion model. And because they were, a couple of students with some IEPs or in a general ed setting, can you talk to how project-based learning helps that kind of a situation when students can collaborate with each other?
Oh yeah. Here's the thing. If we'll be honest with our students, we don't have to pretend like this student doesn't have a struggle. Okay. They know they do. So why are we pretending that they don't know that? They do. If we will talk to them and say, we're going to work together, and these are the ways you can support these students, and you're going to also learn so much from them. And we actually did this in Roanoke when we were first starting, and we did do a coffee cart that kind of stemmed out of project-based learning and Project Discovery. And when we first got started, because one of the things we realized was reading the teacher's orders was very difficult for our students. So we partnered with the gifted students, and each student with a disability was partnered with a peer partner that was a gifted student, and the gifted student knew what their role was. They were not to take over and do everything for the student with the disability, because they also had their role. And we did that for a while. We were able to eventually phase that out because they learned how to functionally read the order forms and knew what those meant. And of course, we did some adaptations to them to give them some more independence with that. But anytime you compare those two different levels, sometimes your higher functioning students are going to learn more than your students with the disability.
The highest form of learning is teaching. And if you're putting that one student in the role of a teacher or coach,
that's right.
That student's going to get that much more out of that experience. Absolutely.
I do want to, let me add one more thing. And I really had not thought of this. So that's how I became a special ed teacher. When I was a senior in high school, I was always going to be a teacher, but I was going to be a high school English teacher. Always, that's what I was going to be. And when I was a senior in high school, I got put in the special education classroom. Back then, the 90s, early 90s, we had like a free period, and we would be teachers' aides. And I was the teacher's aide for the self-contained special ed teacher,
Oh, wow.
and I fell in love.
Mhm.
And I learned so much from those kids, and I left knowing this is what I will do.
Mhm.
And for English was gone. I
Mhm.
forgot about English, never even considered it again, went straight to Auburn University in the special education track for my degree. So it can often change them in ways you don't even expect.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I can also personally say I grew up with a young man who was quadriplegic, cerebral palsy, nonverbal, and I would be like a mother's helper. Is one of my mother's girlfriends, one of her best friends, and I would go and I'd spend time with them. They had a house by the beach, and I would walk him all over the place. And he changed my life. He never got out of his um, prison. I
Mhm.
say in the 50s and
Right.
60s, we didn't teach those kids, but
No, we didn't.
we didn't. We just didn't. But he
But
never got
now we know better, so we do better.
yeah. So he inspired me to work with other students,
Mhm.
peers and everything. And he's always in my heart.
Mhm.
So I love that. And I think that's right. There's real world problems, engaging all types of students. Felisa, did you have any other questions? I don't want to monopolize.
Just one. I just wanted to have you talk, kind of goes along the lines of mixing the high achieving skills with our kids with struggling. You talked a little bit about reflection and how important that is when you get to the end to reflect on what you've done. What are some ways or some suggestions you have when you have those mixed classes where they're kind of reflecting and growing together through what they've worked on?
You mean, how would
Yeah, how would you
I'm hearing
structure
you say
that?
is, what I'm saying, what I'm hearing is, can we, how can we take them through a reflection when we have such different ability
Right.
levels?
Yes.
Well, it's
yes.
okay for it to look different. It's
Mm.
okay for our students with disabilities, to maybe do a thumbs up or a thumbs down, or maybe they have a happy face or a sad. I mean, it just depends on what level you have. You may have students who they need that support, and you
Mhm.
may have some that you can have the student who has the higher functioning ability to say, what did you like to a peer partner, and they can tell them what they like. And maybe that person could record it for them and write it down. I think with higher functioning students, you would want to definitely make it something where they recorded their reflection. Maybe they write down the things they liked, the things they thought worked well, the things they didn't. At the same time, they could ask their peer partner who has a lower functioning ability level. And if that's a person who again, we know our students, and they can say, what was your favorite thing? And they write down what they say and record it for them.
Mhm. Yeah.
And they're both participating in.
Yeah, that's what I was getting to. That collaboration that I think so important, that a lot of our students, our babies don't get. They don't get that feedback. They don't get that confirmation. Yes, you're doing a good job. Or that somebody actually says you struggled beyond their ability.
Right.
What is it that we can do so that you can learn it better and so that you can incorporate it better? And I think some
Yeah.
of our best views come from those kids that are partnered with them.
Yeah, because and
That
they
can
can
help.
say, hey, Miss Perry, he really had a hard time with this. But
Mhm.
when we did this,
Mhm.
you might not have seen it, but he was able to do this, 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 and this.
Exactly.
So they can
Exactly.
guide the reflection. But also, Felisa, if you're dealing with your students with more severe disabilities and you don't have a partnership, it's not let's say, we do have students who still spend, because it is what they need for their ability level, time
Mhm.
away from the gen ed classroom in a special education classroom.
Mhm.
So how do we reflect with those kids
Yeah.
that really struggle to form a good, strong sentence and put their thoughts into words? I think we do it with pictures.
Oh,
And
yeah.
all through the project, we're taking pictures, pictures,
Mm.
pictures. And then when we as the teacher guide them through a reflection, we show them that picture and we say, hey, remember John, when you did, I'm pointing because my presentation board's right there in front of me. John, remember when we did so-and-so, so-and-so? Did you like that, John? or you didn't like that. And you know, that'll help them remember it.
That's
Maybe they
fantastic.
can't
Yeah.
maybe they can't recall that,
Mm-hmm.
but they can remember because they see
I
themselves in
saw it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great idea. That's a
An
great idea.
added benefit to that strategy that I found is also that because you've got those pictures and you've got the evidence, when you're speaking with parents,
Yeah.
Yes.
meeting, you can say,
Mhm.
look at what Johnny did.
Look what he
You're gonna say, I
did.
don't
Mhm.
believe it. He can't do that. Don't you know? I've had parents say, my child's disabled. Don't you know he can't do that? I'm like, excuse me.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I'll take a
Agree.
look and see what he can do when you let go of the reins.
What parent does not
Yeah.
love to get a picture of what their kid did
Mhm.
at school?
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
mean, what parent, when those Facebook pictures go up, does not look at everyone in that group? Is mine in
Absolutely.
there? I
Absolutely.
did it.
Yeah,
I did it
absolutely.
too.
Yeah, me
I
too.
mean,
Mhm.
that's why I didn't mind parents having my personal cell phone number, because I wanted to be able to text them pictures.
Yeah,
Because I
yeah.
know how eyes a mama love to get.
Yes, yes, for sure, for sure.
So I'm just being respectful of the time and the people who come and spend part of their day with us here. I want to thank you so much, Lynn.
Yeah,
Oh, no,
wonderful.
thank you. I
Enjoyed it.
loved it.
You talked about beacons of hope that Felisa brought up in the beginning, and I love that. And you know, putting an X through, we've always done it this way. I came up
Mhm.
with another meaning for PBL, which was pretty beautiful lesson.
Yeah,
Oh,
nice,
yeah, I like that.
You
nice,
did great.
nice.
And if folks want some more information about any of this, please just go on up to our website. You can
Mhm.
get preview packets, you can get news, the newsletters are amazing. Preview
Mhm.
packets, you can see all the interactive components. The newsletter will actually summarize some of the high points, like from today's webinar. So
Mhm.
I've got a lot of special ed directors that will sign up for that, and then they distribute it to their staff. So if they missed the webinar, they get to see that. But there's plenty of information. We are here for you. We're glad to give you some more information. One of our friends online here today noticed that the link that I had put up before for the Facebook page was the wrong one. So I put the right one in the chat, and I think this is the correct one as well. So in case you wanted that link, this is the correct, no, I'm sorry, no, it's not. That is not the correct link, sorry. It didn't want to do it the right way there. Sorry. No, I did put it in the chat. I have corrected it on the final slide. So when we send out the PDF, it'll
Mhm. It'll be-
the way you can tell the difference, Lisa, the one with the F in the middle of it for Facebook versus the one with like a little dinosaur.
The
one with the
dinosaur, yeah, that's
dinosaur.
what I thought.
That's
Yeah, that's what
so
I
I
thought,
did
but I
try
was
to
like, I
fix
don't know,
that,
Yeah.
and you should be just fine.
Yeah.
But I do want to thank you again, Lynn and Felisa, and everybody who's been spending part of their day here with us.
Yeah,
I
thanks
hope
so
that
much.
anybody who is down in the South, I hope that you have all the resources that you need, and that you
Mhm.
get the help that you can from all those wonderful first responders. Our thoughts and
Mhm.
prayers with you all.
Yeah,
And we
for
have a
sure.
great rest of your day.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah,
thanks,
thanks
Lynn.
everybody so much.
Yeah,
Thanks, Lynn. Take care now.
Oh, thank y'all.
Take
I
care.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Okay. Have a good one.
Okay,
Bye.
y'all too. Bye-bye.